Not your average tabletop. Woohoo!
Welcome to Not Your Average Tabletop. I'm Zach.
And I'm Pepper.
And today we are going to be giving our first impressions on Crusaders. Thy will be done.
Yes, and as I can see here, this is Deluxeified Crusaders.
Ooh, Deluxeified. I can't see that on this side.
Oh, it's right at the top here. And a nice
Wow.
little gold
There
foil.
you can see it. I don't even get that on this side. Wow, I wouldn't even know from looking
We're
over here.
switching seats.
Gotta switch those seats. But no, this is a game that, if you don't know, it's got a Rondel Mancala system. So
It's got a few systems in there. It's like
Right.
a Rondel, Mancala, action value type of action selection.
yeah, which is something that had me interested. What feels like for years, or since when I first saw this game. So this was one that was kind of on my list to buy or play for a long time. But it just, I don't know, there's something about it that just evaded me for so long. But I knew that it was one that looked very interesting, and also, I think the name was one, it was one of those, like you said, what is that, 1 acres of snow, what's that one called? No, acres.
A few acres of snow.
A few acres of snow. There's just something about some names of games that just get me in. This one was one that pulled me in from the start as well. So
Yeah, that
just
and
that whole
just
combination.
Absolutely great looking cover to go along with it.
Yeah,
But yeah.
yeah, for sure. But yeah, so I ended up getting it for Christmas this last year, which was awesome, but was also possibly needed since TMG. I don't know what the future for this game holds necessarily. I don't know that it. I'm trying to remember if it was always a little harder to get. I don't know that. Maybe I'm just remembering wrong. Maybe I'm thinking of another game too. But yeah, I think I don't know that this one has another company that they're going to yet, or if this one's the rights to it have been to a different publisher or something. I hope so.
Yeah.
But since we weren't sure, figured that this would be the time to get it just to make sure we'd be able to have a chance to get the game. And,
for sure.
You went above and beyond with the Deluxeified
I had to get the deluxe
for me,
even if it meant going to eBay.
but yes, this one specifically came with wooden pieces of buildings with
Screen printed on
them,
which I believe is to the deluxe edition.
Yeah.
So I think it's just normal wooden bits without the printing.
But then it also comes with plastic figurines of all the different building types as well, and the horses. So it gives you both of those options. In this version, I don't know about. The other version has the metal points.
That's for this as well, and dual layered player boards. And
it's a very, very deluxeified game. So yeah, if you look into this one and are really loving what you're seeing, I guess I don't know what the difference is in price, so I don't want to say for sure go out and get this type if you can find it, but
I think
if it's reasonably close and it looks like something you really like, it might be worth it.
I think for this ended up getting, it was a little rare. I think I ended up getting it for about $120, which, I mean, comparing to some games and Kickstarters nowadays for deluxe editions, and I definitely would call this very deluxe. I think it's not. I mean, it's a big price, but I don't think it's too outrageous.
And I think too, if we'll get to whether or not I think you should just get it in general. Either way, but I'll just follow it. Yes, I think that. But yeah, just wanted. This one was one that I had, obviously, then very high expectations for.
Yes,
and it was one.
I think it was right near the top of your wish list videos that we did back near the end of last year. So yeah, you had said that. I had kind of seen a couple things about it and thought, oh, that one looks cool. But for some reason I felt like it wasn't well received for some reason, but I can't see anyone. I couldn't find anything lately of people saying it wasn't a great game or anything, so I don't know why I had that impression, but I think I kind of wrote it off then a few years back, I think when maybe you had talked about it a little bit. But yeah, once you put it on your wish list, it's getting near Christmas, so I was looking at it and I'm like, this looks like an amazingly fun and amazing to look at game. So I think with that, it moved up to very, very high expectations for me as well.
So yeah, we both had high expectations going in, and what do you think? Did it live up to those expectations?
It lived up to the expectations. The rondelle mechanism was just as fun and cool as I hoped it would be. I think the board play was very interesting as well. It's kind of got, your basic dudes on a map type thing, move around, build buildings, a little combat. I really like the combat in this, that when you defeat, there's like 3 different enemies that you can defeat. You can't actually fight each other.
Right.
Although we might have to throw in a variant there. But yeah, when you defeat them, it takes a certain amount of power. I think it starts at like 3 or something. Then you would get that many points.
Right.
And then you would also bump up their power to 4. Now they'll take that to defeat them and reward more points. I didn't think I would enjoy that. I thought that would feel too tough, but I actually really, really enjoyed that part of the game.
Yeah, I guess I hadn't really thought of that, but yeah, I think that might be one of my favorite parts of the game, and I don't know if I've seen that before. Necessarily that obvious and that easy, done in such an easy way.
Yeah.
Because they've got the track on the side of the board for the 2. The one is always a 6 combat.
Yeah.
But the other 2 are increasing throughout the game, which is, like you said, very unique because not only it like you said, you thought it might be too difficult.
Yeah.
And it
I mean,
it can get harder.
I did
to
go
defeat them.
heavy on my crusading. I got a lot of free additions to whenever I fought. I think I had like 5 extra. So it wasn't as tough for me, but I could see it still being tough if you don't pursue that.
But I think, too, it rewards you as well because you get a point for every level that's at. So if you do defeat like a level 7 one, that's 7 points. And in this game, it uses
about as many points as you can get from a single action.
Right. So yeah, and in this game, it's like a Mystic Veil type thing where there's a pool of points at the beginning of the game based on player count, and then you end up playing until that pool runs out, and then the game ends.
Yeah.
So, and that's another thing that I don't know. It might be used in more games that we haven't played, but I don't see that often either.
Yeah,
I don't think
it still feels fresh to me. I do like that because that kind of it really shows you how much you're progressing and how much more often you're getting larger amounts of points every turn because you really do progress. And another game this kind of reminds me of is a little bit of Hadara. A little bit in the discounts that you get in Hadara. The more you get of a certain kind, and kind of the more buildings you get here, you're kind of getting discounts. You're just getting +1 in certain either travel or fighting. And for some reason, that just came to mind. That it was like Hadara. I think it just felt really rewarding and really helped you do more things. Even because near the end, I just had like 2 little action cubes on a spot, and with my fighting, I was able to take out a 7 level enemy.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I like how that all comes together as well, and it can make for some interesting combos of things, or like things that you find yourself to be better at than others, based on which buildings you kind of take off.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the only thing with the buildings, though, I would say, and this might be one negative against the game, one of the negatives, would be I think it can be hard to remember to take a point sometime, or 2 points when you're doing your buildings. It's obviously clearly on the board what you're taking, so they did put it out there. It's not like it was in the rules that you when you take your first building, it's 1 point. That would make it even harder. So it's not like they didn't do due diligence. They did put it out there, but I still find myself forgetting sometimes to take those points. But I don't know what else you could really do outside of putting it on the board for me.
Yeah.
There's not really another step you could take.
I mean, now that you bring that up, I think it has a lot of good information on the board. Because, there's if you unlock all of your buildings of a certain type, you get an end game scoring. And it has some symbols there. And, I mean, usually in a lot of games, you'd have to look it up in a rule book to see what exactly that does. But this actually has it printed below it as well, which I thought really nice when I was kind of looking at it. And I'm like, what does that do? Oh, it spells it out for me right there. I think they put a good amount of information, because I was worried because there wasn't like a prayer reference.
He didn't have a prayer.
There wasn't a player reference sheet, so I'm like, I don't like it when a game doesn't have a player reference, but I didn't find any trouble. I think everything was on the board.
Very clear.
Easy to read. Yeah.
Yeah, so that gets me into first impression of this, and I think I'm going to have to give it probably an 8.75 to 9.
Ooh.
I think, it's a really solid game, and I could see that continue to go up with more plays. Another interesting thing is the different people or knights you can take at the beginning of the game that just slightly change things up. I don't know that any of them are. Obviously, I've played this twice. You've played it once. I don't know that then there's probably some knights that are better than others, I think, but it mixes just a little bit of the game, a little bit of variable player powers, which I really like in games. But overall, like you said, it's all printed out very clearly. I've even thought that this could easily be one of those games that could be, in the same conversation as like Catan and Carcassonne and Ticket to Ride as like one of the first games you. Maybe it might just be that slight next level.
I'd say maybe next step, maybe slight next step.
Yeah, but I think it's very close to that. Though.
Yeah,
because there's not too much about this game that's overly difficult.
Because when you look at the board, there's like a bunch of cardboard tokens out there, and I'm like, this is going to be really hard to analyze everything. But those tokens were just bonuses that you get if you go there. Discounts on certain buildings or extra points. And I was like, okay, that doesn't really distract me or cause a ton of analysis paralysis like I thought it would. It was just more positive things on the board, which I was really relieved at, because when I first saw that, I'm like, oh no, there's like 3 tokens on each spot.
Right.
But it really was not bad at all.
No.
I do think this is a pretty approachable game, and a pretty solo multiplayer game.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of. I mean, there's a little interaction with taking each other's spots that maybe they wanted to go to, but I feel like if you don't like a lot of interaction and think maybe a dudes on the map type of game isn't your style, I don't think this one's really that much of a problem there.
No, I don't think there's too much of that at all, like you said, outside of maybe if they ended up going to the spot that you wanted to build on or fight on or whatever. Yeah. That's about the only interaction I see with this game.
Yeah. Yeah, so I really love the game, and I'd give this 9 to 9.5. It lived up to all my expectations. And it's just beautiful.
Yeah.
And I got the win by 2 points.
And I think this is the second game now. I don't say this in many games. This is the second game, I think, that doesn't go on as long as I would like. Architects of the West Kingdom is the first one of that, and this is the second one. The 2 games I have that I wish were a little longer. I mean, because that's another thing with the game. It is very fast. The points kind of maybe right away. It seems like this is going to take a while to get all these points done. And when I first played, the first time I played with Michaela, and she was looking at how many there were, and she was a bit worried. She's like, "Oh boy, this is going to take forever." But no, it's also an insanely quick game.
It really is.
Because it seems like you're just getting to where you want to be, and I think it is a good time to end it, because I think if you put too many more points into the pool, then I think it might go on so long that you would just get everything off. and
Yeah.
like kind of score everything.
Yeah.
So then
I feel like I got about half of my buildings off. So I think you can focus on 2 or 3 things and really pursue those and master those. And then I think that's probably how it should be, because you don't want to do everything in a game, because then it's not as replayable. But I do feel like just a couple more turns, and you can add. I mean, I don't know if it says in the rule book or if there's any official variant, but you can just add more points to the pool, or
You
just
can.
be like play another round or 2 or something like that once they run out.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, because I was thinking, I'm like, I don't know if I like games where once the points run out, it just ends at the end of the round. I always like one more round, because sometimes it can catch you off guard, or players play a little differently if they know it'll end like that.
Right.
So I always like when it's at least one more round, so that's maybe a slight negative. As well as if you don't like feeling inefficient, there can be times, I mean, inevitably, there's going to be a couple turns in your game, unless you play like a really phenomenal game, where you just don't feel like you did really much that turn, other than maybe set up a future action.
Right.
Which I think it balances out, because I felt like I had a couple turns like that early on. That kind of set me behind you, like by maybe a steady 5 points throughout. But then you had a turn like that as well near the end, where you weren't able to score points, which kind of evened it out.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, this one might be one with our A to Z series. This might be one we might want to do a playthrough of, possibly.
Yeah, because it is pretty quick.
And yeah, depending on how many plays of it we get by then we can do maybe a chippy as well. So if you want to see those types of videos, leave a comment below and let us know if that's something you'd like to see further content on this. Otherwise, you can subscribe to see that if we end up putting out a video like that. And if you made it this far and you liked the video, if you leave us a thumbs up, that'd be awesome. But otherwise, we will see you next time. And as always, don't forget to
Keep on nibbling
on the content.